Chapter 1. Shadows Past Midnight. Wednesday, June 6th, early morning. It began, as so many tragedies do, with something small, a mistake, an oversight, in this case a dying car battery, and a woman too tired to notice until it was too late. Her name was Liz Phelps, 29 years old, 5'6", 116 pounds, blonde hair, blue eyes, and a mouth that didn't mind telling you exactly where to shove it if you gave her trouble. She worked the late-night shift at Smoky Joe's Cafe, a half-lit dive wedged between a discount liquor store and a boarded-up storefront that once sold VHS tapes. The patrons she served were a rotating cast of the city's forgotten, the lonely, the angry, the ones with hands too fast and minds too slow. She knew how to handle herself. She had to. Over the years, Liz had ducked flying beer bottles and knocked the wind out of more than one overserved creep who thought her job description included flirting back. She was tired of the noise, tired of the men. And tonight, she was tired of the fact that she had to cough up $36 out of her own tips to balance the till after the drawer came up short. It was past 3:30 in the morning when she finally locked up and made her way to her car, parked on the west side of the building. She slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. Nothing. Not even a click. Then she saw them. Those damn dome lights, still glowing inside. She must have left them on when she rushed in earlier trying to dodge a slurring regular who always lingered too long. Despite the marketing claims, the Sears Die-Hard battery under her hood had died quiet and fast, like a soldier who couldn't hold the line. She smacked the steering wheel. Hard. Then again. God damn it, she muttered. There was no one around to hear it. Just the empty street, the neon beer signs inside flickering for no one, and the hum of distant traffic drifting in from the expressway. Her apartment was only a quarter-mile away, off the corner of J and Grape Streets. But the walk felt longer when you were alone at that hour, and when every shadow on the sidewalk looked like it might move if you turned your back. She sighed, slammed the door, and started walking. By 3:40 a.m., she had rounded the corner of Broad and Lyle. The street was quiet, too quiet for a city that never really slept. This stretch always gave her the creeps, even in daylight. At night, though, it was something else entirely. The glow from the municipal lamps didn't reach the alleys. Instead, they flickered and stuttered like they were afraid to look. The shadows they cast weren't shadows at all. They were silhouettes of something waiting. The kind of dark that swallowed light whole. Up ahead loomed the old train trestle. It crossed Broad Street like a skeleton's rib cage laid out over the concrete. Below it, the remains of the canal bed, stagnant and filled with rusted trash, wrapped around Brown's Park like a moat no one wanted to cross. Liz walked faster. She tried to focus on anything else, her aching feet. The fact that she'd forgotten to buy coffee filters. The bruises from last week's scuffle with the guy who thought grabbing her wrist was an acceptable way to order a beer. She'd thrown him out herself. The memory almost made her smile. But then came the wind. It picked up quick, sudden, a street-level gust that kicked trash across the sidewalk in dry, scraping hisses. She paused, hugging her arms across her chest. And then she heard it. Movement. Above. She froze beneath the trestle, looked up. Nothing. The wind howled. A piece of newspaper tumbled by her boot. She took a hesitant step. That's when it came. A blur. A figure dropping from the steel girders overhead with the speed and silence of a shadow unchained. Before she could scream, its arms were around her neck, jerking her backward into the cold grip of something that didn't feel quite human. Liz fought like hell. She jabbed backward with her elbow, clawed at the arms around her, tried to stomp a foot, kick a shin, gouge an eye. She got one good strike in, she thought. But it didn't matter. Her attacker was too strong and too fast. Then she felt it. Teeth. Gnawing. Her skin tore just below the jawline. A burning, searing pressure radiated through the left side of her face. She gasped, tried to scream, but the arm around her throat tightened, like a steel cable cutting off the sound before it formed. Her hands flailed, then faltered. And then came the breath. She couldn't describe it, except that it was foul. Not just bad, not just rotting. It was wrong. It reeked of something ancient, something dead. The last thing Liz Phelps knew before the darkness took her was that breath, that awful, rancid breath. 20 seconds. That's how long she lasted. Then, silence. 4 hours later, a different sound broke the morning quiet. Children laughing. It was just after 7:30 a.m. when a group of kids, no school that day, came walking along the path near the trestle. They were playing some game, something about knights and battles, when one of them stumbled across a red purse near the base of the stone wall. Curious, they gathered around it. That's when they heard it. Crows, dozens of them squawking and swirling in the air above the trestle, carrion birds angry and frantic, pecking at something hidden in the shadows. One of the children pointed. There, dangling just over the edge of the wall, were two pale legs, swaying gently in the morning breeze. It didn't take long for the police to arrive. The purse confirmed the identity. Liz Phelps, late-night bartender, 29. Last seen locking up around 3. The coroner's report would cite 3 peculiarities. First, 2 distinct puncture wounds below the left jaw, surprisingly intact despite exposure to the elements and scavengers. Second, an extreme, almost total loss of blood. Though the official explanation chalked this up to animal activity and exposure, those who saw the body knew better. Third, the location. There were signs of a struggle in the street, scuff marks, a snapped bracelet, blood. But nothing led up to the girder. No trail, no drag marks, no footprints, nothing. She had simply appeared there, elevated, hung, as if placed like a warning. The case would remain open. A few specialists would be flown in weeks later for review, but no answers would come. No arrests, no press conferences, and no headlines. The papers never ran a word of it. But we knew. Chapter 2. The Trail Begins. Friday, June 15th, 2000. The Democrat and Chronicle had long since stopped being a newspaper and started acting like a recycling bin for wire stories. Gannett had owned it for nearly 20 years, an ironclad monopoly that guaranteed 2 things: bad coffee in the break room and even worse coverage on anything that actually mattered. When the Liz Phelps story got buried, literally and journalistically, they waved it off as a local oddity. One dead woman under a trestle wasn't going to mess with their brunch editorial cycle. But the second murder? Even the laziest empire stirs when there's blood twice in a week. To keep a lid on things while still covering their asses, they didn't assign one of their prize columnists. Instead, they sent in a freelancer, a stringer, a guy with no byline to protect but enough nose to sniff trouble. His name was Jim Murphy, late 20s, sharp-tongued, always looked like he'd just crawled out of a bar argument, and maybe he had. The kind of guy who laughed in the face of danger, mostly because he owed danger money and wasn't planning to pay it back. The call came in early. Murder in the upper levels of the convention center parking garage, just off South Avenue and Stone Street. Murphy grabbed his tape recorder, his camera, and whatever caffeine he could scrounge from the newsroom, and headed straight there. By the time he pulled up, the scene was already crawling with uniformed officers pretending they knew what they were doing. He parked near a barricade, stepped out, and let the door slam behind him. The morning air still hadn't shaken off its humidity, and the rising sun was doing a poor job of making the place feel any less like a tomb. Up on the top level, the world looked oddly peaceful. Rows of cars sleeping beneath a hazy sky, the muffled hum of traffic below. But on the far side, between two faded parking lines and a blue Chevy, lay something that shattered that illusion completely. Murphy approached, notebook already open. Friday, June 15th. He mumbled into his tape recorder. Pam Whitney. Age 23. Housekeeper at the Hyatt downtown. Last seen by coworkers around 2:30 a.m. Hung back to chat after her shift, then headed out to the parking garage. Parked on level 2, staff section. Now she was 10 floors higher. He spotted a lone officer, young and nervous, finishing a report near the body. The guy looked like he should have still been handing out parking tickets in a college lot. Murphy approached. You the ranking officer on site? The cop jumped a little, but managed to recover. No, he said, scratching the back of his neck. This is my 3rd year on the force. I was first on scene, that's all. Murphy jotted that down, eyes narrowing. What's the scoop? I talked to a few folks at the Hyatt. They said this girl was a fighter. The officer nodded. Yeah, got that bit already. This one's keeping me pretty busy. I still got to head over to St. John Fisher to take a report on 3 missing students. 3! He threw his hands up. Those kids always show up sooner or later with a killer hangover. What a waste of time, Murphy tilted his head. So this girl, Pam Whitney, she really knew Aikido. That's what we got from her friends at the Hyatt and from her records downtown, the officer said. Why? Well, Murphy said slowly, someone with that kind of training doesn't usually wind up 10+ floors above where they parked their car, dead, and without a single sign of a struggle. No one heard anything, and there's not even any blood, though your body over there looks a few quarts low. The officer blinked. A few quarts low? What are you talking about? Murphy's tone sharpened. You know, something like this happened on the west side last week. Heard it might be cult-related. Even though that one was a bit chewed up, she had some peculiar neck wounds. She was dry as a desert well. Looks like the same thing happened here that snapped the cop out of his half-sleep. Wait a minute, he barked. Did the lieutenant talk to you? Who said you could examine the body up close? We haven't even called the medical examiner yet. How did you know about those marks? Murphy froze. He hadn't seen the body yet, not really. But now his curiosity spiked. He stepped around the squad car and took his first real look at Pam Whitney. She was seated upright, her back leaning gently, eerily against the passenger door of a faded blue Chevy Malibu. Her head tilted slightly to the left, as though she'd simply nodded off waiting for a ride. Her eyes were half open, glassy, empty. No blood, no smear, no trauma that anyone could see except for 2 neat welts beneath her left ear, puncturing downward toward her collarbone. That changed things. Murphy felt something tug in the pit of his gut, a deep ancestral kind of dread. He'd heard of this. Not from official channels, not from any police reports. This was the kind of thing passed around back rooms, whispered between bar tabs, buried in old tapes and discredited articles. He stepped back, notebook still open, hand no longer writing. Whatever this was, it wasn't just another killing. Something had come back, and it wasn't finished yet. Chapter 3. Something Evil on Channel 13. Saturday, June the 17th. Evening. The Williams residence, Parma, NY. It was one of those warm June evenings that made you forget monsters existed. The yard was alive with the sounds of celebration. Birthday chatter, folding chairs creaking under the weight of stories, the clatter of paper plates, and the squeals of kids tearing across the lawn like Jedi in training. The smell of burgers and charcoal hung in the air, like the memory of summer itself, carried on a breeze just cool enough to remind you it was late in the day. Charlie and Kyle were deep in character, caught mid-battle in a lightsaber duel that would have made George Lucas proud or nervous. Blue and red plastic clashed over the bodies of our two family dogs, Cato and Kramer, who played their unwilling role as Darth Maul with commendable confusion. The dogs didn't seem to know whether they were part of the fun or under siege. Inside, the grown-ups were parked comfortably in conversation clusters. Graham and Chaz were seated near the window, Chaz with his usual can of ginger ale, Graham holding court with Bob, Janet, Christine, Deb, and Lorraine, spinning some long-winded family tale none of them had heard in years, or perhaps had just forgotten. Either way, they laughed in all the right places. I slipped away from the patio and into the side room, where I figured the other boys were up to what they always did when given downtime and a screen: video games and total digital chaos. I wasn't disappointed. Inside the room pulsed with the soundtrack of Tenchu, flutes and combat grunts layered under the rapid-fire button-mashing of two seasoned game veterans. Eric sat forward, eyes locked on the screen, his mouth in a permanent grin of vengeance. "You see?" he crowed, hammering the buttons. You sneak up on 'em all, and SFFT, Master Ninja. Thank you, thank you." Matt barely looked away from the screen, grunting in reply. Then he turned his head toward me. "Hey, how'd the gig at the Rose Festival go last night, Sean?" "It was cool." I was cut off by the unmistakable YIPE of a dog under lightsaber assault. "Hey, Charlie, take it easy on those dogs, okay?" "Okay, Daddy. We're just playing Star Wars." "Darth Maul, doggies," Kyle chimed in behind him. I shook my head. "There were a lot of weird characters running around," I added, stepping back into the room. Matt blinked. "Where? Out on the deck?" "No, you putz. At the Rose Festival." Before I could clarify, Eric bellowed at the TV again. "Take that, you little Next one throws a shuriken at me, I'll murder him." Matt leaned back and said, "Oh, yeah." "Speaking of murder, did you hear about the one in the parking garage downtown last night?" Both Eric and I stopped in sync. "What?" Matt didn't even pause the game. "Yeah, they found her on the top level, next to a car. Police said a guy attacked her and dragged her up there." "What'd she die from?" "They didn't say. All hush-hush. Some kind of cult deal. Something about missing a lot of blood. I didn't catch it all. Got interrupted by the grinder downstairs. News guy said they'd speculate more on it tonight." Eric scratched his head. "Gee, I thought the city didn't have stuff happen like that much." I felt it before I said it. That cold, creeping déjà vu. "Wait a minute. Did you say blood?" "Yeah. They showed the crime scene. It looked really clean, like nothing happened. But they said the girl was a mess. Oh, and she knew Aikido. No signs of a struggle at all." I shot Eric a look. "I don't like the sound of that." Then, from the living room, the TV broke in with that familiar tone. An emergency broadcast, interrupting the normal programming. "We interrupt this broadcast." Eric leaned forward. "Hey, Matt, turn off the game for a second." "Sounds important," I said. Matt grabbed the remote. "Yeah, that's the guy who reported the thing last night." We headed into the living room. Megan and Charlie were already fiddling with the remote. "Don't change that," Eric shouted. "I want to watch cartoons," Charlie whined. Megan blinked. I didn't think anyone was watching this, but we were. A huge theft of blood from St. Mary's Hospital's hematology department. Witnesses have been interviewed. All describe the robber as incredibly fast and strong. A huge locked door to the facility has had its hinges ripped off of the door jamb. The witnesses also testify that the other perishables in the facility must have gone bad quickly, as a terrible smell like rotten meat has permeated the area. The police have called a news conference for 9 a.m. Monday to help inform the public and possibly bring in any leads. Local officials feel it is important to show how strong local law enforcement can handle their own local problems during an election year. I turned to Megan. Meg, do me a big favor. Go get Uncle Bob for us quick, would you? I turned to Megan. Meg, do me a big favor. Go get Uncle Bob for us quick, would you? Before she could even move, Bob appeared in the doorway. I'm right here, he said. I was wondering what Kyle was up to. Eric pointed to the screen. Check this out. You got to see this. Matt looked around. Guys, what's up? Why are you so twitchy? The three of us, Eric, Bob, and I, looked at each other. That old weight settled on our shoulders like a memory you'd hoped you buried. I think we've seen this kind of thing before, I said. Bob blinked. No. Do you think it's possible? Eric shook his head. Don't say that. That's what the adults said when we were kids. Now look at us. We're saying the same thing. Just keep an open mind. My eyes were still on the screen, the words 9 a.m. press conference circling in my head like vultures. 9 a.m., I muttered. Matt leaned in, whispering now. What the hell are you guys talking about? Chapter 4. The First Report. Monday morning, June 19th, 9 a.m., Sheriff's Office press briefing. The moment the clock inched toward 8 that morning, I was supposed to be straightening brass ligatures and tuning flugelhorns at Central Music in Pittsford. But thanks to the thespian instincts inherited from my dad, who'd once played a potted fern in a local community production of Guys and Dolls, I managed a convincing enough display of sickly agony to earn myself a go-home-and-rest directive. I didn't rest. I drove straight downtown. By 8:58 a.m., I was slipping into a rickety chair at the back of the sheriff's department's repurposed conference room. Matt met me there, still rubbing sleep from his eyes, but alert enough to recognize that something wasn't right. I had given him a briefing that sounded absurd on the surface, but my face must have carried just enough grim tension to make him believe. A vampire? Matt hissed at me under his breath. You mean like a real vampire? Shh, I muttered. Keep it down, Mr. Subtlety. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. You gotta be kidding me. Like the Fright Night vampire. Or more like the Night Stalker. Funny how that name keeps coming back. I smiled. Funny you should mention that. You should read more. Ever hear of Jeff Rice? He documented a real case of vampirism in Vegas back in 1970. Dan Curtis bought the rights and made it a TV movie in 72. We met the real Carl Kolchak in the mid-70s. Nice guy. And we've seen the real MCCOY before. It's not pretty. And this fits the pattern to a T. Before Matt could reply, the doors opened with institutional finality, and a procession of law enforcement, coroners, and, of all things, occult consultants shuffled in. A lieutenant took the podium. We'll keep this brief, he began, scanning the room like he regretted being here more than we did. As you all know, St. Mary's Hospital's hematology lab was hit Friday night. Some of you reported on it. We're bringing in experts on the occult. We think there's a link between recent blood thefts and the victims. They'll help us ID the thief, or whatever this is, and what he might do with the blood. Here's Mr. Jack Schwartz, an inshuffled Jack Schwartz, who had the energy of a tax seminar and the charisma of a damp dishcloth. Narrating the dangers of gang rituals and what symbols to look out for, Schwartz droned on, defining a cult with all the passion of a DMV clerk explaining parallel parking to a blindfolded cat. The press, meanwhile, acted like a pack of hyenas in cheap suits, tossing in dumb questions to chase a quote worth printing. Then he spoke up, unkempt, unshaven. He looked like his last shower was administered through whiskey vapor, definitely our age or younger, but his voice cut through the banality like a buzzsaw on plywood. "Sir," he said, "does the occult you're talking about include the underground practice of vampirism, or do you think there's a real vampire out there for us to tackle?" The room went dead. Not a cough, not a camera click. The collective silence had the gravity of a courtroom execution. Somewhere near the podium, a police captain barked, "Who is this clown?" The reporter, Murphy, we would later learn, shrugged off the rebuke. "All right, forget that one." I'm tired and forgot my manners. "Sorry. This question's for the coroner, Mr. Flemenharm, whatever. Sir, why haven't you released any information about the wounds the girls suffered? Or why there was massive blood loss? Is it related to the hospital robberies?" That one did it. Murphy was promptly escorted out like a drunk uncle at a wedding. Matt and I were already on our feet. "Wait up," I called, catching up to him outside the conference room. "I want to talk to you. You got the right idea about this. They don't like it, but you might be onto something. I'm Sean Williams. This is my cousin Matt. We might have information you'd find interesting." Murphy gave us a look, a once-over, like a guy wondering whether we were about to sell him Amway. Then he nodded toward a nook off the main lobby. "Over here," he said, slumping onto a couch like a man who hadn't sat down in a week. "I'm Jim Murphy," he said, waving his press ID. "Freelance. I ghostwrite editorials, cover bottom-rung news items, trying to make a name. Being nice didn't get me anywhere, so now I try the loud and crass route. And yeah, I've been up all night. Got a hunch." Ran with it. Matt raised an eyebrow. "Seems like it's getting your attention." "Not the good kind," Murphy chuckled. "Could be. But I saw the second victim right after the attack. That girl, there wasn't a drop of blood. Not a drop. 2 puncture wounds, jugular, looked surgical. And she knew Aikido, apparently. Yet no signs of a struggle. I leaned forward. And she was found on the top level of a parking garage. I paused, then, "We have." Up close, Murphy's hand hovered near his satchel, just in case we went full tinfoil. "Listen," I said. "This isn't the place to go into it all. Let's trade info. Give me a number." "I'll call Murphy," was about to respond when I spotted someone in the hallway. "That woman," he said. "She's the nurse who witnessed the hospital break-in. Let's see if she'll talk." We followed him over. She was mid-50s, conservative, the sort who'd scold you for chewing gum but sneak you a cookie right after. "Miss, could we have a word?" Murphy asked, flashing his badge. "Which words did you not understand during the briefing?" She shot back, but softened as she read his press tag. "I'm tired," she sighed. "But ask away." What she told us made my stomach knot. A pale, thin man, silent and slow-moving, dressed like an intern. Doors ripped from their hinges, blood gone, a smell like decomposing meat. "Stronger than anything we expected," she said. "And quiet." Dead quiet. Just then the medical examiners burst out of the room behind us. Matt turned. "Want me to ask him?" Murphy nodded. He didn't even have to try hard. "What report?" one of them barked. "We couldn't file anything on Whitney's death because her body was missing." "What?" Matt asked, stunned. "Gone. No body. Not our fault. The police asked us to examine it. Morgue couldn't find her. Only thing left was a smell. They said the fridge units were on, but it stunk like spoiled meat. It's insane. As they stormed off, muttering curses about lost sports tickets and city incompetence, Matt looked at me. I don't think I'm going to work tonight. Murphy reappeared beside us. Tell who what? He asked. We jumped. He grinned. What'd they say? And I smiled back, thin-lipped. Exactly what we were afraid of. Chapter 5. Grave Concerns. Monday, June 19th, 4 p.m., Williams' home, Hilton, NY. The microwave fan whirred behind me, its hum competing with the scent of reheated casserole and the quiet tick of an old wall clock. Then came the sharp ding, like a bell signaling the second act of a slow-burn mystery. Here you go, guys, Mom said, setting the hot dish down with a smile. Smells good. Who wants coffee? I passed. I'd already had enough caffeine to keep a small marching band awake. My nerves were twitching as it was. When does Eric get home? He should be home any minute. The dogs answered before she could. Suddenly, claws clattered across the hardwood. Barking exploded in stereo, and the storm door jolted in its frame. Matt and I both jumped like we'd heard a gunshot. That should be him, Mom said, barely fazed. Maybe you two shouldn't have any more coffee. You seem a little jumpy. We're all right, Matt muttered, straightening his shirt. The front door opened with a creak and a thud. Hey, Eric called. How was the news conference? Tried to catch it at work, but they didn't say much. Sounds like they're not too interested. Oh, they're interested, I said. Let's get going. I'm afraid there won't be much light. Eric stared at me. Sean, it's June. The sun's not going down until like 9:30. Yeah, well, I hesitated. I just want to get started. You know what I mean, he exhaled and dropped his keys. I just got home. Give me an hour. Where are we going anyway? Before I could answer, Dad burst in through the side door mid-song, chanting something about rolling poop into little balls. He didn't stop walking, just disappeared deeper into the house, still singing. Eric blinked. Make it a half hour. The ride to Parma Cemetery was quiet at first until we were halfway down West Ridge, and I broke the silence. I figure Skorzeny was reburied there for a reason, I said. I want to find out who else is buried around him, if there's a connection. But I don't think it's him this time. Eric raised an eyebrow. Matt just frowned. Only Dracula had that power to resurrect. Matt cut in. Skorzeny? You mean Night Stalker Skorzeny? Janos Skorzeny? Like the real... Wait a minute. Dracula? You didn't mention that? Sorry, I said, tightening my grip on the wheel. I know it's a lot. But let's stay focused on what's in front of us. Namely, this cemetery. I pulled the van over on a patch of gravel. We stepped out into the wind and silence. Wow, Eric said. They cleaned it up pretty good. Matt, grab my notepad from under the seat. He bent down, grumbling. Man, you need to clean your van. I need to clean my... What? Forget it. Here it is. We moved past the first row of headstones. The late afternoon sun filtered through the trees, casting long crawling shadows across the cemetery grounds. Leaves rustled overhead, but everything else was still. Here it is, Eric said. Janos Skorzeny, born Romania, 1899. Died 1970. Yeah, we know his story, I said, flipping open my notes. It's the other names I'm interested in. Start reading them off. Matt called out. Bassart, Wheeler, Walker, Eric added. Monroe, Abbey, Wellman, Knowlton. Hold on, I said. What was that last one? Knowlton, Eric repeated. Then there's Skorzeny again, and another Wheeler. Got that one already, Matt said. That's it, I nodded. The rest are names I've already written down. I'm going to check the Rochester archives, see what turns up. We walked back to the van. The silence was thicker now. Think that reporter guy might help us? Eric asked. Actually, yeah. He doesn't trust the police any more than we do. Says he's got a friend on the inside, someone involved in the investigation. Told me he'd give him credit in his book if it goes anywhere. He's one of those young overachiever types, only 29. Cynic. Kinda reminds me of you, Matt. Matt snorted. Yeah, thanks a lot, you bastard. Still, he did sound legit. I dropped them off back at home and told them to meet later at Graham's so we could get everyone on the same page. Deb, Bob, the works. We had to bring Murphy in, too. I wasn't expecting the night to turn like it did. Christine wasn't thrilled. She met me at the door as I walked in. You left work? I told them I had the flu. She looked unimpressed. You're going to get fired. I told her what we'd found. Scorzeni's name, the graveyard list, Murphy's questions, the coroner slip-ups. Her face changed. Then get back to it, she said. I spent the next 4 hours glued to the computer, search after search, cross-referencing names, city archives, old newspaper articles that had been half erased by time. Just past 10 p.m., the phone rang. Murphy. We exchanged information, loose theories, rough notes. Nothing earth-shattering, but enough to confirm we were both on the same trail. Then the phone rang again. Same number. Murphy's voice was completely different. Sean, you're not going to believe this. My police scanner just lit up. There's been another one. Corn Hill District. Girl found in her car at Plymouth and Exchange. Right on the river. You know where that is? I grabbed my gear. I'm on my way. I made it to Graham's in 30 seconds flat. Eric was still there. Matt, thankfully, hadn't gone into work. I didn't need to say much. They saw my face, grabbed their stuff, and we were back on Lake Avenue heading south before the engine even had time to warm up. Tamar McDaniel, part-time Kmart employee, former waitress at Perkins, well acquainted with the kind of men who left bruises and apologies in equal measure. She was found slumped forward, head resting gently on the steering wheel of her car. The driver's door was open, just a crack. The other 3 were locked. Car parked at the river's edge. Corn Hill quiet around her. She weighed 125 pounds. She was 31 years and 11 months old. She had been dead for less than an hour. I've never seen a murder victim, Eric whispered. Me neither, Matt said. Eric leaned forward. Think we're going to see it? I don't know, I said, but I already did. Murphy met us just past the perimeter, his camera hanging around his neck. Thanks for coming down so fast, he said. I want to document the area before they cordon it off. That guy over there, Officer Starling, he's letting us do the research. I told him you guys were my occult experts. I introduced them. Murphy, this is my brother Eric and my cousin Matt. We shook hands, quick pleasantries. If you want, I'll take the photos of the body. Don't bother, Murphy said, cutting me off. Got 'em already. Just do some cursory observations, Eric and Matt exchanged a look. Car location, anything unusual? This whole thing is unusual, I muttered. Eric asked, were there marks on the neck? Murphy's eyebrows lifted. Yeah, 2. Right on the jugular. Any blood? Matt asked. Not a drop. She's as dry as the Sahara. You guys really do know your stuff. You don't know the half of it. We worked quietly, noting the angle of the car, the position of the doors, debris nearby. Took pictures. Wrote down anything that felt wrong, which, to be honest, was everything. Then we loaded back into the van. None of us spoke on the drive north. Not a word. Not even a breath out of place. Corn Hill faded behind us, but her image stayed with us. Tamara McDaniel, parked just feet from homes where people were sleeping. And someone, had taken her life without a sound. There was something out there, and it wasn't finished yet.